Okay, some more problems. Solving polynomial functions by factoring. This is number 14, and this is a good one. 6x squared equals 1 minus x. So again, first of all, we want to set it equal to 0, so I'll add x to both sides, and I'll subtract 1, so I've got 6x squared plus x minus 1 equals 0. And then I want to factor this. Now this is a general trinomial, but it's an easier general trinomial because we've got a 1 here. So let's see if we can kind of noodle it out here. So we know that it's going to be something like, well actually we got possibilities for the 6. It's going to be 6 and 1 and 3 and 2. So we'll do the other way. So we multiply the first term times the third term to factor this, and this was the general trinomial method. So 6 times 1 is, or 6 times negative 1 equals negative 6. So I'm looking for two numbers that you have to multiply to give negative 6. And they have to add up to be 1. Okay? Since they multiply to give a negative, I know the signs are going to be different. If they add up to be a 1, I know the larger one will be positive. So it's going to be like positive, negative, positive, negative. So I need two numbers that multiply to give a negative 6, and they add up to be 1. So that could be 3 and 2. And we just check that. Positive 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, but positive 3 plus negative 2 is 1. So that works. So that's how I'm going to rewrite this. So I'll rewrite this. I'm just going to make that 6x squared. And instead of writing x, I'm going to write 3x minus 2x. So this is that method we went over in class. And minus 1, and that equals 0. Now notice that 3x minus 2x is the same thing as x, so we're okay. And then we're just going to do 4-term grouping, so we'll factor right down the middle. I can factor out of these two terms a 3x, so I've got 3x. And what's left is 2x plus 1. And then out of these two terms, I'll factor out, and we always factor out the leading sign, so it's negative. And I'll just take out a 1. And if I take out that, I've got what's left. Well, 2x. And if I factor out a negative, I got plus 1. So you see the same thing there. And then now we have a common binomial factor of 2x plus 1, so we'll factor that out. 2x plus 1, and what's left? 3x minus 1. And again, these are always equal. These are equal to 0 because we're dealing with an equation. All right? So that was a little bit more work to factor that, but that was this method. Again, you just multiply the first term times the third term. So 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. Then you need two numbers that multiply to give that, but add up to be this, which is 1x. Okay? All right, now we have this factor, so we know that 2x plus 1 equals 0, or 3x minus 1 equals 0. And then if we subtract 1 from both sides, we have 2x equals negative 1, so x equals negative 1/2, or 3x equals 1, x equals 1/3. And there we go. So my solution set is negative 1/2 and 1/3. Okay, and it looks like number 16 is very similar. 10t squared minus 9t equals 1. So first of all, I'm going to set it equal to 0. So I've got 10t squared minus 9t minus 1 equals 0. And again, I've got a general trinomial. I've got a lot of possibilities here. Oh, that's t squared, excuse me. I could be 10 and 1 or 5 and 2. So we'll just do it the little tricky method I showed you. So 10 times negative 1 is negative 10. So I need two numbers that multiply to give negative 10, but they have to add up to be negative 9. Well, again, if they multiply to give a negative, the signs must be different. If they add it to be a negative, the sign of the larger must be negative. So I know negative, positive, negative, positive. All right, so they're going to have to add up to be negative 9 and multiply to give 10, negative 10. So what two numbers multiply to give 10? Well, 10 and 1, and that works. Negative 10 times 1 is negative 10. Negative 10 plus 1 is negative 9. So we're going to take this middle term and rewrite it. And instead of writing negative 9, I'm going to write negative 10t plus 1, t, excuse me, and then minus 1. Now, it doesn't really matter. You could put the t here and the negative 10t here. It'll work out the same. All right? So that's fine. And then you could double check it. 10t minus 1t is negative 9t. So then we'll do four-term grouping. So we'll factor this right down the middle here. And out of these two terms, what can I factor out? Looks like I can factor out a 10t. So I'll take out a 10t. And what's left is t minus 1. And out of these two terms, I'll take out just a 1. It's always this sign, positive 1. And what's left is t minus 1. And then out of these two terms, I can factor out a t minus 1. And what's left is 10t plus 1. And that equals 0. And now we know that either t minus 1 equals 0 or 10t plus 1 equals 0. So if I add 1 to both sides, I get t equals 1. And here I can subtract 1 from both sides. I have 10t equals negative 1. And if I divide both sides by 10, t equals negative 1/10. So there's my solution set over here. 1 and negative 1/10. And a set, it doesn't matter what order you put them in, so you don't really have to put negative 1/10 and 1 in. Sometimes we like to write them in ascending power, like in this set it was negative 1/2, 1/3. So I could probably see this as negative 1/10 and 1, but it doesn't really matter because the set is just a collection of objects and order doesn't matter. Okay? So there's a couple with the general trinomial method. Okay? And make sure you kind of understand that method because it really comes in handy sometimes.